All right, y'all. I am back with the Matthew Cooke. Not to be confused with any other Matthew Cooke out there. Although, Matthew, I will say you're the only Matthew Cooke that I know. So you got that going for you.
There's actually an
we
actor.
just came off of the.
There's an actor named Matthew Cooke.
Oh, that's named Matthew Cooke. Ooh, is he your doppelganger by chance?
He's probably better. He's probably better looking than I am, but he's another guy.
I was gonna say it'd be more like, ooh, if you looked similar,
That would be hilarious. Yeah.
That would be great, actually. So if you all didn't catch the live show today, then you missed a great episode because Matthew's phenomenal. He is actually the founder and creator of B3 methodology, which is the somatic coaching experience that I was just certified in. And he is an incredible practitioner. He's a phenomenal teacher, and he is just a cool around dude. He's got accolades for days. He's worked with the biggest and the best of them. He's someone who just really actually walks his walk. And those are my favorite kinds of guests to have on the show. So we're going to dive into some post-show fun. And, we were dropping in at the end into our heart, which is where I love to have the show. And I was so bummed that we were just right at the top of the hour for the live show. So, I want to go back and talk about relationships because this is what I want everyone to get some context. Y'all, when I met Matthew, I happened to be driving from Montana to, I think, Texas, and we were going back through Colorado. And one of my friends calls me up and says, hey, we happen to be in Colorado right now. Where are you? And I was like, I'm in Montana. They're like, well, where are you going? I was like, well, I'll be going back to Texas. And they're like, do you happen to have to come through Colorado? I was like, well, as a matter of fact, I do. They're like, well, can you stay a few days? I was like, sure, I can figure that out. And that's how that happened. So I'm getting together with my friends, and Matthew at the time his car is packed. And he's leaving the next day to move to Austin, Texas. And I'm meeting him officially for the first time. And so we are all like at karaoke. We're having a good time. But Matthew and I are like chat, 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 chat. And so from there, we had this beautiful friendship that just blossomed, and we know a lot of the same people. And so that was just a really like fun kind of way of the universe showing up and being like, yes, you all should meet. So I have to say, Matthew, from even the first time I met you, you do this thing. And I think it's the essence of just who you are. It's who you be. But I also think that perhaps there's been some practice over time. And I'd love to discover what that is, because I would love for more men to discover how to hone in this beautiful gift that you have. You have a really beautiful way of creating intimacy with conversations that has nothing to do with sex and has nothing to do with being attracted to them. I'm not talking about that, but there was just this beautiful, authentic part of you that made it so easy to connect with you, and just easy to just go back and forth and just be like, you're asking me questions and I'm answering, and then you're doing the same. So talk to me about that, because I know, part of your past is that you and your ex-wife, I believe, actually almost wrote a relationship book together, which I think is pretty amazing. And you guys actually ran some relationship stuff. So let's dive into that, because I want to talk about that. I feel like relationships, it's what's on everyone's mind. It's it for sure. And you do this so well. And I have to say, just in the time I've known you, I feel like I've known a few of your exes, and they're all phenomenal women. I mean, sometimes you're like, I have that one friend that dates all the crazy, but you date some phenomenal women. And I'm like, because you're a phenomenal guy. So let's talk about that. I want to understand this, and I want more men out there to understand this. And I feel like there's so many people calling in partnership, and it's like, you do it in this really natural, you just have this gift of just kind of getting right in there, and you sit in this really comfortable spot, and it just makes it easy to trust you and know you, and still want to be friends with you. So what is that? What is it? Talk to me about that.
Oh, thanks, Mary. That's so sweet. I feel a little blushy about that. I don't know. I mean, honestly, Mary, it probably comes from my deficiency, quite frankly, is like my feeling of
Oh.
it probably comes from my feelings of shame about the like I'm not interesting or fun enough. And so I
Yeah.
have made it like a lot of my life. I've made a lot of it my life's work to like really deeply understand other people. Um,
Mm.
and the beautiful part though is that I've gotten to know myself a lot better through doing that. Like because I have found the right people that actually are interested and curious to know about who I am on the inside. But it's because,
Mm.
yeah, like I usually approach every conversation of like I really deeply want to like really get the essence of that person that I'm with. That's always what's most interesting to me is like I really want to know who you are, like at your depth, and
Mm.
that's probably why I am I've been told I'm a really good coach, and I think that's probably why I just have that natural sort of ability, I guess, in some ways to, yeah, I just want to know people. I want to understand like what makes somebody
Yeah.
tick.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
then people will ask me
And
questions about
that's
me, and that's cool. But
yeah.
yeah,
No, I'll tell you, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because I feel like that so resonates with me because I'm the same. I'm so curious and I just want to
yeah,
know about people and I want to know like why they believe what they believe and why they think what they
yeah,
think and like what's
totally,
going on for them in the
yeah,
world. And, I love being able to kind of capture things from a different lens. And it's like, oh,
yes,
this is so interesting. Humaning is so interesting. Like, what if I could just be a little bit of every human for just a few minutes just to see what it's
yes,
like, or do they human like I human? Because I don't think they human like I human like.
yeah,
These are the conversations I have with myself.
uh
And
huh,
when I think about how, you said that so great, how you seek to understand people, because this is, I hope you're all listening to this. I hope you are all really listening because especially if you're out there looking for partnership, because this is gonna change the game for all of you. My friend has been dating this guy who, if on paper I told you all the things, he is so wonderful by
yeah,
so many like leaps and bounds, and he's accomplished and there's all these things. However, what she said to me is, he never asks me about me. She goes, I can ask him
oh,
all kinds of questions. She's like, and it's great because he's interesting. She's like, but
yeah,
he never really asks me about me. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
boo,
so
boo.
hard,
And she's
yeah.
actually a very interesting person too. And I thought,
Oh, I'm
wow, he's
sure,
really
yeah,
missing out on the juice.
yeah,
It's not like she's super boring. Like, she actually is really interesting too. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, and it just clicked for me. And I went, this is what we want. We want to be seen and heard by, particularly by that person who we want to call in as our person. So
yeah,
how and why isn't it that happening more?
yeah,
And even the last time I was dating someone, I was telling her, by again on paper, I was like, "Ooh, I could check all these boxes," but then I was like, "Oh no, he's so can't wait to come tell me all about his stuff." And have me
yeah,
hold space, but he forgets that there's like someone on the other line that wants that reciprocation.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
applaud you because you the
Thanks.
way you see people and seek to see and hear them is really, it's beautiful. It's bringing tears
Thanks,
to my
Mary.
eyes because it's like I really see it in you, and I want to reflect that to you, and I want you to know that it's a beautiful, beautiful trait. And I'm always looking for those really beautiful ways to just acknowledge people for the way where they can just show up so authentically and just so lovingly, because it's what's more of it's needed in the world. So I just really want to
Oh,
reflect that back to you.
oh, Mary, thank you. That's so sweet
You're
of
so
you.
welcome.
Yeah, because and I appreciate that so much because I think as little ones, like we just want mom and dad to see us and like know us, like really know us. It doesn't matter what your gender or like form of relationship, but that means so much to hear that because you're so right. I feel like that's like one of the most important pieces of relationship is to feel like so seen and known and understood by
Yeah.
someone else. Like that's what feels to me like what makes relationships special and important. Otherwise, we're just two people just kind of hanging out. And that's fine. That's cool too.
Right. Right.
But it's
Right.
different. It's a
Yeah.
different level.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
really is. And that's where I just go, "Oh, wow, like where do so many people do it wrong?" And I look at like my closest relationships and I'm like, "That's it. We all see and hear each other, and we do it so with such intention." It's
Yeah.
not because we're expecting them to give us something later or to get a thing.
No.
Like that's
Yeah.
just what the relationship is. It's that act of going back and forth. And so just watching, being able to witness you do it in such a beautiful craft of just who you are and how you help teach others to do the same. Like it's just really beautiful. So I just, again, you have my sincerest acknowledgement in
Oh,
that is just one of the traits of you that I love so much.
thanks,
And
Mary.
it's really beautiful. And I desire that everyone in the world would get the opportunity to feel that seen and heard when they're having conversations and when they're out in the world also being that person who is trying to see and hear other people, because I just think that would cause such a beautiful shift in things in a way that would be like world changing. Like if every child could feel seen and heard, like how much that affects them down the line and later. And I raise my hand and go, man, my mom, she always saw me. And there's
Yeah.
something to be said for that level of like trust and safety of like, oh, like I can just be who I am. She's not requiring me to be anyone else. She's going to love me regardless. And that I think is like the essence, such the essence of it. So again, just a beautiful acknowledgement for you. And I do want to know, what was this relationship book going to be about? Because maybe it's in a long lost archive somewhere and still needs to be written.
Yeah. It's so funny. Actually, this is such a sweet turn. I didn't expect us to talk about this today. I still have so much love and respect and appreciation for that woman. And for what we were building. Yeah, we were building a business called Relational Intelligence. So RQ, I guess.
Ooh, that's good.
and yeah, and it's so funny. It's so interesting you saying this, Mary D, because I actually had a buddy that shared similarly. Like he's like, you should write a book about that relationship, even, and like sort of even the aftermath of it and everything, and what that kind of looked like. But the book was going to be about conflict, and was going to be about um, the dynamic of relationship, and that there's usually a freedom seeker and a stability seeker in every relationship.
Ooh.
There's one partner that really deeply just craves stability, like settled, safe, and like and comfortable, like, but like in a good way, for the stability seeker. And then there's the freedom seeker. And the freedom seeker is like, you can't hold me down. Like, like don't try to limit me. Don't try to
Right.
because what happens if you get two freedom seekers together? It's actually it's less likely they'll stay together, because the freedom will have them sort of bounce out. And again, none of this is like tested by science, but this is something we were playing with in our mid-20s. And then if you have two stability seekers, they kind of glom onto each other, and it can become a little bit less, like it loses some of the polarity of having a freedom seeker and a stability seeker. So there's typically one that will kind of lean towards, but this is also sort of like the ambivalent or anxious attachment and avoidant attachment too, if anyone
Sure.
speaks attachment theory. Yeah, so those were some of the things we were interested in, but we were also interested in what we talked about as the conflict cyclone. So like the
Ooh.
cyclone of conflict, and we would always talk about the anatomy of conflict and how it begins usually with someone's boundaries being like ruptured, like stepped on, and most of the time, especially by loving partners or intentional partners, very unwittingly. Most of the time, it's like we don't even know that we're actually like hitting someone's boundaries. Uh, and it is, at the end of the day, we just want to be seen and known and understood, and felt. Really, this is something that even my partner Morgan, my sweetheart Morgan, is always saying, like, I just want to be felt. Like, I just want to be, like, I just want you to like attune with me enough to like physiologically like be in my understanding of the world for just even a few moments. It's not that you have to hang out there forever, but I just want to know that I'm felt. Actually, she said so, oh, what did she say to me yesterday? It was like so beautiful. It's like, um I want to feel you feeling me, or something like that. And I just, yeah.
Mm,
And I think
that's
that's what we
beautiful.
all
Yeah,
want. Yeah.
I think you're right, and I will say that I actually agree with a bit of your theory around the freedom seeker and the stability seeker, because I actually can reflect that so easily in my last relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 100% the freedom seeker, and my ex-husband was 100% the stability seeker. And you can even, when I break down any of our conflicts and arguments, it was around those two things. It was
Yeah.
always around those two things. So it's really fascinating. I really think you have something there, and I'm sure there's
Really?
probably some kind of science out there that will probably
Oh.
speak to that. And I would be so interested to see you, like, maybe interview, like, I don't know, a dozen therapists or something, and
Yeah.
see if they, have any inklings around whether your hypothesis is true or not, because it would be really interesting to see people, unfold that a little bit and see what happens there. But
That's so
yeah,
fun.
no, I think it's yeah, and I also think it's beautiful that you can reflect on that past relationship with an acknowledgement of love, because I think that's also the thing that doesn't happen often, is that people
Mm.
feel like there has to be a conflict. I was talking to a friend the other day who is going through a transition of ending her marriage.
Mm.
And in it, the husband has been, even though he says he's on board with it, he still hasn't quite grasped that that's really what's happening. He suddenly is like
Mm.
going to counseling, and now he's trying to throw spaghetti at the wall when she's like, hey, that wall's not going to be there anymore. So it's kind of a
Mm.
little too late scenario. But when it came to their children, he was talking about, oh, he's like, well, don't you want our daughter to have a dad? And she had to correct him and go, this doesn't mean she can't have a dad. Your
Yeah, she
relationship
still
with
has a
her
dad.
doesn't have to be, yeah, that's right. Doesn't,
Yeah.
but in his mind, she wasn't going to have a father, because in his relationship with his family, when they split up, he didn't have a father anymore. And so he was
Mm.
viewing it from that lens of being a child again and being like, well, if you split up, that means I don't have a parent. So if we split up, that means our kids. It's like, no, no, actually, that's up to you. That's up to you to break that cycle. It's up to you to choose to show up
Yeah.
differently. And I was telling her how, like, even now, I actually picked up my ex from the airport and gave him a ride. I babysat his dogs this week, and like we have this
Oh.
great friendship that feels
Yeah.
really good, and it feels aligned, and it feels
Mhm.
like it was a beautiful transition. And I'm so grateful for the time that we did spend together as a couple and married, and all the things that I learned through that. And also, like, it was complete. And so, how
Yeah.
do we shift our thinking, and how can we be more conscious transitioners when we're out of those relationships into whatever is next for us? Like, how do we hold that for each other? Because we've held each other so intimately in these relationships, right? And you do that, how to press their buttons, and they know how to press your
Mm-hmm.
buttons. But then now you shift that into a whole new paradigm. And I was also sharing with Zion, as well as I do. We
Mm-hmm.
were having a whole conversation around this. I said, I had to think, like, why do I have these great long relationships with these wonderful men in my life? And I went, it's because they've always just been my friends. Right? I don't have to live with them. So when you don't have to live with someone, there's a
Yeah.
totally different paradigm
Totally
at
different
stake
dynamic.
here.
Yep.
Yes, and it's a different dynamic than being with someone all of the time. And
Mm.
and oh my gosh, if you work together too, whew, like that's a
Mm-hmm.
whole nother layer of just togetherness. And so,
Yeah.
how do you create space and time? So I'd be curious to know from you, because I feel like, again, you've been masterful at navigating your relationships too. And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen you and Morgan, your current love, together, and how you two operate. And it's so sweet. It's actually very sweet and very endearing, just how you both show up for each other. And I'm so curious to know, like, how does this all translate for you? Like, where did you learn these things? Were your parents shining examples for you of what love looks like? Or is
Yeah.
this, trial and error? Like, fill me in.
Oh, that's so sweet, Mary. A little bit of both. My parents actually do have like one of those super super sweet stories. They met their high school sweethearts, and they've been together for almost 40 years now. They met in high school choir in sophomore year at 16 years old. Yeah. And they had my sister very, very young. I mean, I think my dad was a freshman or my mom was a freshman in college. My dad was a senior in high school. And they were very, very young. So they just kind of like, I think I've always had an attitude of like, we're going to get through this. Like, we're going to make this work. And my dad has always been a real rock and a real stand for like, we always kind of make fun. We always kind of joke that it's like, everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Because that was just always his mantra growing up. Like, it's going to be fine. Like when sort of chaos was around, my dad would just say, it's going to be fine. He's just always been this very rock solid. So I guess I really learned from that. He's also Mr. Hallmark, is my mom's nickname for him, because he's like just this really sweet. So I think a lot of it is patterned, fortunately for me and unfortunately for some folks, just by how our mom and dad, like caretakers, what they modeled for us, which is really freaking hard for those of us who grow up with one parent or no parents, or and it creates a sticky dynamic for some of us. So some of it is trial and error as well. Yeah. I want to say that every single relationship has gotten better for me. And I don't know if you feel that or if other people feel that, but every relationship, I feel like I've learned so much from my previous partner. And I really do. Maybe it sounds cheesy, but I really think of them all as teachers for me. Like, they've really taught me.
Oh, for sure.
So much about what it means to be. Yeah.
A good partner, right? And also maybe when you didn't show up and weren't such a great partner. And I think that these are the ways that we learn to be a better partner to the next person, which is why sometimes it's much easier to start with a clean slate than try to go back to the old one. And when there's been a lot of pain or a lot of struggle, involved in those. So,
Yeah. Well, can I say one last thought on that too?
Please.
I always want to, like, ideally I'm building a relationship with a partner where we're building a relationship where our healing is outpacing the damage that we're doing. Like, as long as that equation is in place, like where the healing is going faster than the damage, because like we're gonna do damage. Like it's part of relating. It's part of like being in the same physical space. We're gonna hurt each other at times. But if I can hopefully the healing is outpacing it, and the ability to repair, my goodness, I think that's the most important thing in relationship. If we can do that, then like, I think we're doing all right. I don't know if that's helpful anyway.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. No, it's so good. It's so good. So, guys, again, Matthew is one of my very interesting, very just lovable friends. And I'm so glad to have him on, and fantastic teacher. For those of you that don't know, he's giving away one spot to his next 3-month cohort, so you can get your certification in B3. It's great work, y'all. It's the good work of the world. You can do it for yourself. You can do it with the people that you love. So, Matthew, thank you so much for that gift. Thank you for being our guest today. I appreciate you so much. And for those of you who want to get in touch with Matthew, want to know more about his programs and what he's up to in his coaching, more how to show up as a beautiful, authentic man, then you want to get together with him, and his details will be down in the show notes, and you can reach out to him that way. So again, Matthew, thank you for being our guest today. I appreciate you. Folks, don't forget, MADLoveology retreat. The cart is open. Come join us there. You can use the code podcast for $800 off your ticket. If you're listening to this before June 20th, that's our next event. If you're listening to it after, you can catch us in October. And with that, I wish you all a blessed day. We'll see you back here next time.